Welcome to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. This is Will Crozier.
And I'm Zach Kongonis. We are here to bring you the best solutions to your lifting problems. Through our real-world experience, we hope to break things down in a digestible, applicable, and entertaining way.
Today, Zach and I talk through a listener question that has come in, and we will talk through how we recommend a lifter move from squatting in sleeves to trying out wraps and what that process looks like. This leads us to a discussion on wraps in general and their utility, and then a couple of other common FAQs around wraps and thoughts on wraps, a bit of stories in there. Then leads us into other powerlifting equipment. So we talk about belts, we talk about wrist wraps, we talk about footwear choices, we talk about soft suits, equipment in general that you'd use in powerlifting. Enjoy. All right, Zach.
We're back. Hello. How you doing? Good stuff.
We're back for the next episode, Next Unloaded. A few episodes ago, we had you put on. Well, actually, it wasn't planned in the slightest, but there was a certain accent that was put on for the question that I just wanted to bring up because a few people. I don't know if you've got feedback, but I definitely have had feedback for people who, I don't know, they loved it. Most of the feedback's been positive. They appreciated it in a way. They thought it was great. So had that flooded in. Can we expect more accents? I
mean, there's definitely a line that I have to flirt with between getting cancelled and putting on a funny accent. I think I can, if it's requested, I could do this next question in extremely ethnic or bogan. I've got those two.
See what comes out
that I think won't get me cancelled. There's a couple that definitely flirt on the line between getting harassed on Twitter, but there's definitely more to come. I can practice. I'll finish this podcast and go to my. What's the voice actor who teaches Hollywood people? There's a special word for him. I don't know. An accentologist.
Yeah. That's the take. So, a lot of feedback coming in saying they want more of that from you. A lot of your poop talk about the dates, people commenting back about that. Loving that segment.
It's actually kind of weird.
Is there any other?
I forget that the podcast's a thing, and someone at the gym will be like, "So have you shit yourself recently from eating too many dates?" And I was like, "It sounds like something I've said before, but how do you know?"
Yeah, we're not even that many episodes in it, and I've had a couple of people come to me and be like, "Oh, like you said this," and I'm like, "What?" I have no idea. I have no idea what happened. Even in the last, by the time this comes out, I'll have no idea what was said in this, which is only a matter of days. So I mean, it's interesting how fast things are. Just go through, come out, and then just completely exit the mind. It is, I feel like in a year's time or whatever, when we're looking back on these episodes, it's going to be a wild journey. But keep that coming. But we'll move on.
Feedback back.
So,
and I would 100% take recommendations for accents because if someone recommends it, then I can't get in trouble. Is that how that works?
Yeah, if people just promise to not complain, I think that works as well. If we just give everybody an agreement to not cancel us, I think that'll work. If everyone out there can just pledge right now,
pledge your allegiance to Nexus.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm happy with that. Just a straight up pinky promise that, and no straight up criticizing the podcast either in a negative way. Let's make that a thing. If everyone can just agree, I won't talk shit on the next. I'm for construct. Actually, no, I'm not even for constructive criticism. Let's keep it all out.
Tell me I'm pretty.
Just give me good stuff. That's another rule. Let's keep that. There's a couple of rules to start us off. So we have Deadlift for Dogs. I'm in the shirt right now. Check it out. Loving it.
Big logo.
This is our special shirt. I could get up and give it a 12 because we have got the sponsors on the back.
I think you should. Give it a 12. Come on.
I don't know if I can within
just
the realm of the
quarter turn to the left. No, that's just.
See, this is terrible. Most people listen. Most people listen to this, so terrible radio.
It's just a reminder to watch.
If you could describe it, maybe.
So there's a gigantic red circle in the middle of his chest. It looks like a very heavy print. In summer, he'd be sweating like a priest in a playground. You got a beautiful yellowish colored dog in the middle, bending over a deadlift bar, yellow to brown. We'll call it mauve. I don't know what mauve is, but we'll call it mauve. It looks like he is deadlifting 70 kilos, so he's actually on the lighter side, but I guess for a dog that is pretty decent.
Yeah, I was going to say, power to weight ratio, not bad.
That's fair. He weighed 25 kilos?
On dots? Yeah, if it was tank's around 25.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Doing right.
So he'd win dots off that 70 kilo pull, and then, got the Nexus armband and the sponsors on the back. Should we read off the sponsors? I can't read the sponsors on the back.
I'll see if you can.
My eyes don't work. Okay, we've got Ethos. We've got Ethos down the bottom. Good old Sammy out there sponsoring all the puppies. I can't see any of the other ones. Just bend over a little bit more. Get that prison view.
Terrible view.
I can't.
So we have the Pet Wellness Centre, which is a vet here on the Gold Coast. They're sponsoring it. We have the Gold Strip Demolitions. Prime time loving,
prime time
deadlifting dog. It's their, demolition companies are our main. We love them. And Holt Constructions as well, who are a local constructions company here on the Gold Coast. So they can help build your houses. Great plug for them. They're very good
homes
at it,
built,
I swear.
Homes torn down, pets taken care of. We got you.
Yeah,
and
got
exercise
all bases covered.
For Sam.
Yeah, big Sam, loving it. So we got that coming up very, very soon. Some big lifters jumping into that. We should see 400 kilo deadlifts in the males. We should see over 200 kilo deadlifts in the women. So some crazy shit going down there. It's going to be a big day. We have.
I heard that the plate loaders were actually being flown in because they're so handsome.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe that handsomeness scale is a little bit overrated by those people. But yes, we will have a donations link. So there'll be a live stream, which Alex, our gym manager, has been working ever so hard on getting a really crisp. So if anything goes wrong, blame him. But it will be a donation link on that. So if you want to jump on and you see people deadlift some heavy shit, you love dogs, shoot us a...
Send us cash.
Not us, the Animal Welfare League. I swear we're not pocketing it at all. It is a charity event, so it's all going to the Animal Welfare League here on the Gold Coast to support dogs that had a rough start to their life. So we're all about that.
For fuck's sake. Was that on purpose?
What?
A rough? A rough start? Really?
No, it wasn't, but we'll say it is. So, yeah, we have some big lifters in that. We have Breakthrough Battlegrounds in a few weeks' time as well. So we have a few Nexus athletes in that. We some of our top lifters, we have Keita Davis in there, who is right up there in terms of like the best female lifters in the country at the moment. She will be looking to push her already world record kind of numbers just a little bit higher and further her distance in front of the competition here in Australia. So she should, in my eyes, easily the most biased fucking person, but in my eyes, a favourite for taking out the dots and smashing that competition. So she's looking good. We have Big Anthony, the Australian Yeti. He's doing some crazy shit. It's almost like annoying programming for him because he's just so fucking strong. And I'm like, oh man, like I'm not weak, but I feel weak.
You watch him do things. He was at Pro the other day, and just watching him do his squats because I wrapped him, and these squats just looked easy as piss. And he's like, yeah, it's a deload. Don't tell Will though. I've stacked my deadlifts and my squats together, and he's loading up the deadlift bar. And he loads up, I think, whatever, like 320. And he goes from 320 to 350. And he puts the fucking 15s on the outside of the collars. Yeah. He just slips them over the top of the collars. And I'm like, what are you doing? And I go to change it. And in the space of me trying to run across, like, 2 feet, he's picked up the bar.
Yeah.
He just walked up and fucking picked it up.
Hit some safety bars the other day as he's like accessory squat for like sets of 4 at 300 kilos. Like just stuff like that. I'm just like,
God bless him. He's a different creature. He's the Yeti.
So yeah, his goal for this comp to throw him under the bus because he put the pressure on. I hated it when people did this to me at Pro Raw, by the way, but I'll absolutely do it to him. We're definitely looking at a total that will on dots. So the formula that we use in powerlifting to kind of compare weight classes and stuff is not power to weight ratio strictly. There is a little bit more math involved, but it's to compare different people in different weight classes. He's looking to put himself in the number one spot for the all-time Australian men in any weight class or anything, become the best male lifter of all time in Australia.
Who currently holds that?
Odell.
Nice.
So
to
get ahead of Odell is pretty ridiculous.
What the fuck does DOTS stand for? I was just thinking about that. Is it an acronym, or was someone just like,
I'm assuming so.
The other name doesn't work anymore.
The other name is banned. I'm sure they weren't sitting around going like, "What's just a good name? What about these?" Then looks down at the page and like, there's a couple of dots, and he's like, "Dots," and everyone's like, "Yeah, great idea, man." No, I'm sure that's not how it came apart. Yeah, I'm sure there's an acronym. But yeah, it's the most accurate one at the moment, and that'll hopefully looking to catapult him from. I don't even know where he stands at the moment, but to being outright number first. So the pressure's on. Yeah, top. Yeah, Then we also have Dan Mahoney and Jace doing some crazy shit as well. So it's not all the light on those two. We have a couple more lifters in it. It's going to be an absolute, just really fun comp in Sydney. So I'm looking forward to getting down to that. So that's what's going on for me. But we do have actually a good listener question that's come in. One of our listeners reached out and through the website, jump on the website, nexusperformance.com.au, podcast up the top. You'll see a little feedback form. You'll be able to just give a shit if you feel like it, but hopefully send us questions that we can do episodes like this on.
There's no vetting of the questions. You send something through, we'll see it. If you want to send a bad joke, send a bad joke. If you want to say something outrageous, do it. Send everything
that you got. And the question here, I'll let you do the honors to read out today's question and or problem from our listener.
Am I doing a voice? Should I do extremely
I'm giving you free reign. Do whatever you want. This is your podcast. I'm not like the boss of you.
So, Blair, could you please discuss what would be recommended for a lifter to move from squatting in sleeves to trying out wraps for the first time? In brackets, listener question and bracket.
The brackets don't need to be read. So to all the people that just couldn't understand that at all, could you please discuss when you would recommend a lifter to move from squatting in sleeves to trying out wraps? So there's a couple of different ways to interpret this question, but I think that's a good thing because we can kind of go in a million different directions and make it whatever we want.
The short answer is stay in sleeves, wraps, take your soul. No,
I was actually having a good conversation with somebody about the other day because when I first started powerlifting, I did my first comp, 2015 Queensland States in sleeves. The reason that came about was because I kind of didn't really understand how to use wraps or anything. I had always used sleeves for squatting in the gym. I hired my first coach and she was like, "Oh, you want to use wraps for it? You're allowed in GPC." And I was like, things were just going good. And I was just like, it's just another thing to learn. I didn't have access. I was already training in a gym where I didn't have access to the right bars and definitely not access to a monolift and all the other things that usually you would be preferable to have access to prior to doing a comp. So I was like, fuck it. I'm going to do it in sleeves against the wrap people. But then straight after that, the next comp that I did was Pro Raw 7. And
goes from States first ever meet to Pro Raw. Nice.
Yeah, good progression. And obviously there were some strong people in that. Not that they weren't at States, but the level of competition definitely elevated. And I was like, all right, now let's make it a slightly fairer competition. Even though if you actually watch back my squats from Pro Raw 7, whether it's back on my Instagram or whatever, the wraps were honestly a joke. Like I remember my mate Tyler, who was handling me. I remember we just kind of like put them on, and it was like absolutely zero tightness. Like probably like like 50% as tight as I would wrap somebody, if not less, and like a meter of fucking wrap hanging out the end. So definitely wasn't using them to their full potential anyway. But I thought that might help a little bit, and I just kept on using wraps for there because I was allowed to, and because why not? You know, it was in the rules. So, but if I could go back, yeah, they do. They help, obviously. But yeah, if I could go back, I was actually having this conversation with somebody the other day. If I could go back and sleeves were as like prevalent as they are now, and the level of competition was where it is now in the sleeved divisions, like I could go to a comp, compete in sleeves against other people in sleeves, and be really close and competitive. I probably would have just kept doing that. I probably would have just stayed in sleeves. I probably wouldn't have never moved to wraps. So like I said, I jumped into pro roll. There wasn't an option for sleeves, and there wasn't competitive sleeved competition in Australia for me. So I kind of had to if I wanted to be on a level playing field. So I did that, and yeah, but I would absolutely like recommend if you like lifting in sleeves and it suits you, you definitely don't have to go to wraps. It's not a progression. I think that's the main thing with this question to get out of the way first is just like, it's not a progression. It's not like you max out your sleeves and you're like, oh, there's no more progression in sleeves, so I chuck on wraps now. And that'll be like...
I've won sleeves. I've finished the game. It's like when you scroll to the bottom of Instagram, there's nothing left. You hit like a 300 sleeve squat and that's it. You got to go up.
Gone. So I think that's the progression. I think that's the first thing is just understanding that it's not a progression. It's not like hey, I've done sleeves, I'm going to move to wraps now. They're completely different things. It's like, sure, they're both the same race, but it's different divisions, it's different cars. You know, like we're comparing two completely different things here. It's not that you have to go to one. You can do both. You can have different things. But you have to just choose it's just preference as to where you go. It's personal preference.
Like what you want to do. Like for the most part, people will usually lift more in wraps, even though there's some crazy people just, I don't know, some people just break logic in many ways. But generally people will squat more in wraps than they do sleeves. Like you got these people in USAPL meets squatting more than the best people at pro and wraps with their high quality drug testing. I'll throw the meme joke out there right now.
I still think they would squat more in wraps. I don't think anybody out there is going like, I squat more in sleeves.
Larry Wheels. Is it Larry Wheels?
I don't know, but I doubt his fucking judgment on this. Like, I don't know. Like, there's no way you can put like elastic around your knees, even if it is at 50. The only argument would be like, you know, when I go really hard really tight on my knee wraps, it screws up my patterning and it hurts my knees and I hate it, and you know that it makes me squat worse. Understandable. Yeah. But guess what? That's the fucking same as everybody. Like when you first try it, it sucks a lot and you suck at it. So you just got to put up with that for a little bit and get used to it, get better at it. It's just a skill like anything else. And I guarantee if it was Larry, not calling Larry, I definitely would never do that. As soon as he got used to it, even if you put wraps on it, 75% of like tight and they're just kind of like, you know, firm, it's still going to help you more than what a piece of neoprene is. So I refuse to believe that. Yeah.
There'd be outliers of everything, but for the most part, you can be comfortable making that call that you put big old pieces of elastic around your knees multiple times at a decent tightness. They'll help you do the squat thing. Yeah, and they're usually going to, in my experience, add about 5 to 10%. So like 5 is more like when people aren't so good at using it, they can't tighten it up fully, and they're still in that learning phase of kind of getting better at using them. But then as you get better at using them, I find that it kind of goes towards that 10%, and most people end up there. That if their best sleeve squat is 300, then maybe they can squat 330 in wraps. But obviously, there's a skill to sleeved, there's a skill to wraps. They are very slightly different in their execution. So you're just going to get better at it. Like I'm sure somebody first day in wraps is not going to get much. Somebody who's really experienced in wraps and uses wraps for every single set probably going to suck at sleeve squatting. So there's absolutely a big skill component to it. Yeah. With that as well, before we kind of take a jump into the next part of this, I want to pull us back and explain my first time in wraps because it's a fantastic story. It was actually not with a squat.
Yeah.
My first time ever wearing wraps was a pair of the OG Sting knee wraps from Rebel Sport
Yeah.
with the fucking Velcro.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely loaded up. Like I stacked the leg press and had more plates sitting on the
Oh
top.
God.
I was like 16 years old, had a pink stringer on. Like I pretty much I placed the knee wraps on. I didn't wrap my knees. I put the knee wraps on my knees and then just started screaming. Just fucking repping and screaming. Range of motion about 2 inches.
Yeah.
Then after that, I proceeded to fail a 180 box squat.
Yeah. Full West Side at this point.
Yeah, that was for me my first introduction to them. I thought that was irrelevant for some reason, but to get back onto the course,
that's a good point. Let's draw some useful shit out of that. So don't buy those knee wraps from
what's wrong with
the
them?
local Rebel Sport.
They're way easier to put on.
They're terrible in every criteria that you could give to wraps.
The CEO of Sting is now just sitting there crying. You've hurt his feelings.
He'll be. I'm sure he's resting on his money, loving it. But yeah, go to a powerlifting company. I'm not going to lean anyway. Even though we have no sponsors, so we have free reign to say whatever the fuck we want.
As you said, you're a free agent.
Yeah, free agent. But any kind of powerlifting wrap or wrap company that makes them in Australia, like there's a heap of them. You can't really go wrong with them. Just kind of you'll have to find the one that works for you though. So some people like a really stiff wrap that's like not very stretchy. If I grabbed it and tried to stretch it, it'd be really like hard elastic and hard to stretch. And then other people like ones that are much more stretchy. Usually the stretchier ones are a little bit more friendly on your knees as well, on the skin. For people who haven't tried wraps hurt a lot. If you put a really, really tight thing around, like just fucking, maximum tightness around your legs, 8 or 9 times, it hurts. It's just really like compressive of the joint, actually, obviously. That's the whole point, to get that elastic leg bounce, so that assistance out of the bottom, but it hurts the skin. It's like sandpaper on the skin when you get tight enough.
Did you ever go as far to shave your legs? Because I know a lot of people, I've seen people fucking walking around with just from lower thigh.
Oh no, you have to do the whole thing if you're gonna shave it, you have to shave the whole thing for sure. There's no way you can just shave the knee. Come on, no, but I haven't done that, but it definitely rips your hairs out.
It sucks real bad.
When I first tried wraps, somebody I just kind of looked at the best lifters. And kind of like, well, what are they lifting? Or my favorite lifters, I should say. And what are they wearing? And back at that point, whoever I was following was wearing these really stiff pair of wraps that were absolutely brutal on the skin, like the roughest material. And I'm like, oh yeah, oh good, I'm tough, I can do that. And I remember just trying, and this would have been in the Pro Roll 7 prep, just trying them on and being
this is awful.
Going down a fucking 10th of the squat. And then just giving up and going no fucking way. Not a chance I'm doing this. No. And then I had to message, I messaged Tombro7 and said, help. And he was like,
please assist.
Yeah, and he said, try out these ones. And then I tried, I think it was some more stretchy Inza wraps, which were much more skin friendly. Tried them on. And they were a much, much, much better choice. And they were much more friendly on my knees. And so that's a good recommendation piece here is if you are looking at buying your first pair of wraps, instead of looking at the best lifters, I would push people towards starting in a softer, stretchier wrap. And that's not to say that they're a beginner wrap either, because trust me, you can fucking crank that around friggin' near 20 times and it'll still do its job very, very well. It's just personal preference almost. But, they're much more knee-friendly. Your ability to wrap them looser is better. If you get a really, really top of the chart stiff wrap that only stretches a centimeter with all of your force on through it, your ability to self-wrap that or go anything other than super tight is really difficult, because it's either just not on you at all or 100% tight. So there's no middle ground. You can't just go 80%. So I wouldn't start there. I would start towards the friendlier ones, like the Inza INZs that I started in. Each brand usually has like a softer one in their range. So whatever one that is for the brand of your choosing, I would start there and start it, semi-tight, and then build up and get used to the tightness as you go. But
it doesn't make you tougher. Suffering through a pair of really aggressive wraps does not make you tough. It just makes every squat way harder than it has to be.
No, but at some point, point to that. At some point, you are just going to have to just crank it, because like no matter how much you try and like build into it, it's still going to suck at the top. There's still going to be a point where you're like, this is just not fucking fun. Like my knees are fucked. Like the skin is red raw. They're no fun to use. Like it's going to feel limiting in your squat at first when you try and squat with really, really tight wraps. So there's still an adjustment period. At some point,
I wouldn't even call it an adjustment period. You never get used to it. Like every single session sucks just as bad.
No, but that's like people when they say like, oh, how does X weight, like 400 kilos, whatever, like I've attempted 390. How does 390 feel in your back? And I'm like, fucking heavy. You know what I mean? Like you never get used to it. Like you just kind of get better at dealing with it a little bit mentally. And it's the same thing with the wraps. I feel like you just kind of get better at like just, this sucks, but whatever. Like it's part of it. And I understand that. And I'm not freaking out. You know what I mean? So at some point during a prep anyway, you're just going to have to put them on really, really tight, deal with it, get used to it a little bit. And yeah, just learn to not freak out over it. Learn to squat in it. Yeah. So I would recommend usually if it's your first prep using wraps, what would you say? I would say around like at least 12 weeks out, probably start putting on some wraps and kind of using them for at least like your top sets or like at least wearing them at like 80% tightness and building up or somewhere around there. Like start to get used to them at that point if you aren't experienced with using them. I think
12 weeks is good.
Yeah, 12 weeks is a nice round number. And then as you advance, as you get better at using them, as you get better as a lifter, as you get, like I said, more like kind of understanding as to what they're going to feel like and just okay with that, then you can probably leave it a little bit closer. You probably leave it to like 8 weeks out or whatever it is. Like some people will. Like, I don't think there's a correct answer. It's just kind of like however long you find it takes you to kind of get used to it, how your programming
you prefer
looks.
Have slightly too much time. Like, you'd prefer have an extra week or two to get used to them than to cut it too fine and have to play catch up.
Oh, definitely. I think your programming style comes into it, or like your coach's programming style for you. Like, we program top sets like 3 reps or less from essentially like from 10, 12 weeks out.
Yeah.
Like, we're hitting pretty heavy work the entire prep, at least for the top sets. So it makes sense to be in wraps for that time. Like but if you're 12 weeks out and your periodization style or your programming style or your coach's programming style still has you hitting sets of 6 at that point on your squats, like I won't make any of my lifters get into a set of 6 wraps. I just feel like it's like
God, no.
kind of pointless.
It's just mean.
It's just
yeah.
It's not heavy enough to really practice anyway. Like it's just not hitting 70% in wraps. It's kind of just it's just a little bit silly. And for the same thing,
if you could hit it in sleeves for a comparable RPE, just hit it in the sleeves. It's something as well that when you have people who think, cool, I'm now a wrap squatter, it doesn't mean that every single squat you do from here on out is wraps. Like sleeve work still has to play a massive role because. Yep. One of the biggest things for me was just general time. Like one of the large considerations for adding wraps to a training program is it blows a session out by maybe an hour.
Yeah.
It just instantly tacks on a bunch of extra time. Then you have to stress about if someone else is wrapping your knees for you, if you're going to wrap them yourself, how you're going to wrap them. Like, it's just extra shit to think about. So the less time you spend in wraps, then you can still progress. It's, in my opinion, a net positive. When you're in a prep, like, you better strap on in some 3-hour squat sessions. Like, they're coming.
Yeah, they were always my biggest sessions. Like, at zero, we would have a few of us prepping for Pro Raw, usually in the gym. So, like, and we would kind of train as a bit of a team, which is sick because, like, being in that environment makes you push and work through those hard days. Definitely made me a better lifter. But the downside to it is there's, like, a mono that needs to be adjusted for each person's height and whatever. If there's 3 of you using it, so all 3 of you need to get wrapped by somebody. So like we would wrap each other or Thomas would help wrap. With obviously the time it takes to wrap somebody, to get used to it, to do the set, to take the wraps off for the next person to roll theirs and to get theirs and put theirs on. Like it really, really drags it out. But like to me, that was a sacrifice I had to make. That was prep. Right? It's like, fuck, do I want to be the best? Like, okay, it's an hour out of my week. Fuck it, I'm doing that thing. So that's how I approached it. So we just dealt with it. But it is definitely a massive negative. Like you can't rock up to a world's gym or whatever, a Good Life, and just sit in a squat rack for 4 hours. You're taking it like
a bunch of people. Mad.
You're not going to be liked by the rest of the gym. So yeah, there's definitely some negatives to it as well, and when one of those is the time it takes. So if you're thinking about starting to use wraps for competition, that's something to think about. Do you have the time available in your schedule for an extra hour or whatever on your sessions? But you mentioned something earlier that you can kind of do both within the program. I was going to quickly say there as well. Usually I'll only program 3 or less kind of sets of wrapped squats in a session, just because like you're going to do 3 attempts in a competition, so you're going to get wrapped 3 times in a competition. Each time you wrap your knees, like your skin gets a little bit more worn, and it sucks progressively more and more. There's more sets you're doing. So the last thing I want to do is give somebody like 6 sets of wrapped squats, because like obviously like we just said, that's a really long session, but like your knees are so fucking sore by that 6th set. Like you're not even thinking about your squat that much anymore. You're just thinking about like, God damn, my knees are just like absolutely ruined, and that's all you can think about. So if it's getting to that point, do less. So like, but on the same time, then you might run into the problem, like I need more than 3 squat sets a week to progress. That's most people, right? So like we would do potentially 1, 2, 3 sets of wrap squats, and then do some sets of sleeve squats after it, or potentially on a different day, potentially in a different variation, So like it's definitely not like if you choose wraps, you have to do that, like you said. I think that's the
thing that I found. When you know you're doing too many rep sets is when you figure out the quicker you finish the set, the faster it's over, and you start just absolutely blowing through them like someone after they ate like a really bad Indian meal. You just fucking you're shooting through all the sets and reps. Like as soon as that dictates the quality and how quickly you want to get them done, maybe just take the wraps off and cut the weight back.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely been there a few times where you like it's that last set of squats, your knees are red raw, and you're just like just hoping for the best, just relying completely on the wraps to do all the work for you, whilst you cry over how sore your skin is.
I remember you used to have the little knee warmers.
I use like a tube bandage, which is like a round bandage thing that you slide over your leg or your limb, and I used to put that over there for when on the sets where my knees were like red raw. Just put that out. It didn't help. Like for anybody thinks,
didn't it?
I think mentally it helps a little bit, but like it didn't really help at all, because like if you think about like how thin a tube bandage is, it's like absolutely nothing. And if you also think about it, it might stop a little bit of abrasion of the skin, but like there's still that compression, which is actually what fucking is the main thing that kind of hurts. So it didn't really do a whole lot, but I think mentally it just made me think like I have this protective fucking thing.
I'm safe. I've got my teeny tiny knee condoms.
Yeah, so there is that. But side note on that, people will give you shit if you use that. So be prepared for the bullying.
Yeah, I remember I did it relentlessly.
All right,
I remember bullying you real hard for those tube socks. Like
everyone did.
Was...
But I was like, "Fuck you guys! I squat more in your face. Fuck it."
Look, it's a fair call.
If it makes me better, I do not care. It's clearly evident towards like some of the outfits people wear in competition with their matching everything. That they do not give a shit about how they look.
Me to no end. Like it's powerlifting, not fucking Power Rangers. If you got fucking red, yellow, green, and black Power Ranger all lined up in the warm-up room, it's like just settle down, all right? Just take a break. It's powerlifting.
The Instagram, Instagram fan. It's not TikTok.
Like
fan.
I remember
TikTok.
when I first started powerlifting, I legitimately had a second-hand soft suit, second-hand pair of shoes, and second-hand belt, and I used those things right up until like 2020. You remember those really ugly red shoes? Like the fucking wrestling shoes that I had?
I don't, but I can picture them.
Oh, they were bright red. Dakota hated them. They were horrendous. I think I still have them.
Yeah.
But I got them secondhand, and I used the shit out of them till like my pinky toe was poking out the side. Now you have people doing their first meet, getting the SBD Red Summer Night Moon Deluxe Edition with the sequence inseam. It's like, fuck, just settle down. I don't know why that annoys me. Maybe it's because I'm poor.
That's actually good though, because I still have my first belt. I still have in the gym right here with me, my very first belt that I ever bought, which was a fake Titan belt. Yeah, it was meant to be Titan. I thought I was purchasing Titan. It wasn't Titan.
Yeah, I-10 belt.
Yeah, it was the Wish version of Titan, and but it still did the job. It was still 10 mil leather, and but it doesn't look like a bit like it did when I first bought it in terms of the fabric color, but yeah, it's still going. It's still doing its work. I'm still wearing it. So that's actually kind of where I wanted to push this conversation anyway, because I feel like we've done justice to sleeves and wraps in that whole conversation. If you want to know quick plug on us, if you want to know the Nexus way of how we wrap knees, there's some YouTube videos which we'll link on knee wrapping, how to wrap knees. So if this is a problem for people who maybe haven't used wraps or aren't experienced with wraps, and you're probably looking for a way to wrap as well. We have a video on it explaining how to do it and why we do that. So we'll link that as well. But we have a bit of time, so let's go into some of the other equipment that we have in powerlifting, because there are a few more things, and just we won't go super deep like we did with that into all of them, but we can definitely talk a little bit about them, and then if people have more questions to ask, then they can do the whole process and write in, and we'll talk about them more. So
I guess we were just on belts, so starting there.
Yeah, let's start on belts. Yep.
And I know that was the biggest mistake that I made when I first started powerlifting. I was like, I'm a big boy. I need a big boy belt. And first off the bat, got like this thick as shit 13 mil lever belt, and every session for about 2 years, it bruised the shit out of my ribs. Because I heard someone say, if you're a big squatter, you need 13 mil. If it's 10 mil, it's not going to work. And here I am, like squatting 230, like, yeah.
Big boy.
I know what that's about. I'm a big boy. I need a big boy belt. For you, did the thickness of the belt, we should say girth, use the technical term, did the girth of your belt ever impact anything? Because you like the 10, don't you?
I don't know why 13s exist. Like, honestly, I've never recommended a person to buy a 13. I think it's
overkill.
I don't know. I feel like the people who go like, oh yeah, I need a 13, like they must be using it as a crutch or something to their crappy brace. Like the belt should be there to enhance your brace, and if you need any more than 10 mil of leather done up pretty tight, then if that's still not working for you, that the solution to your problem is probably not get a thicker belt. It's probably something else missing, right? Like you probably need to learn to brace better. You probably need to, I don't know, like there could be a heap of other things. It's probably just adding more thickness to the belt is probably not the answer that you're looking for.
If that's the way it worked, someone would have a 20-inch belt. Like if more was better, someone would be walking around with like a fucking phone book taped to their insides.
Yeah, it doesn't help. It just causes more problems. Like you said, it just doesn't fucking move at all. So it just bruises the shit out of you. In lifts where there is actually all lifts at the maximum pretty much have a bit of flexion extension, a bit of movement at the spine, whether we like to believe it or not. So it can get in the way of like getting in position or whatever. So it's just like I would highly recommend just getting a 10 mil belt. There are some certain brands that come a little bit more, like the leather's a little bit nicer and a little bit more worn in. But it changes a lot. So
and please don't run it over with your car. I've fucking seen some people get a brand new belt and they're like, oh, leather's stiff, got to break it in. They start backing over it with their ute. It's like, just use it. Please don't run over your belt.
I've never seen that, but
Really?
Never.
I
do the old
New South Wales thing.
Move it back and forth. Yeah, it's a Central Coast thing for sure.
It's a Sunny Coast thing.
But just doing it.
261, fucking represent.
Rolling it back and forth. So rolling it one way, leaving it there for a while, rolling it the other way, just trying to loosen it up a little bit that way, definitely recommend. But it's always going to, like, the whole point of it is to be stiff. So if you don't want it to be like super duper like flexible and comfortable anyway. It needs
You don't want the girth to be flaccid.
I feel, is this like every episode you have to mention it. You have to mention that word. But so get a 10 mil, chuck it on, get the lever of your choice, and go from there. As far as like,
levers.
you hate levers
so much. It's a preference. Yeah, I don't like them. I mean, realistically, the difference between a lever and a prong is pretty much nothing. It just comes down to preference. And I don't know why, but I could never get the lever to fit right. They just felt terrible for me. Don't know why.
I mean, you can adjust them. I don't know if you worked that out.
Yeah, I know, but it was either like, if you had too many papa dubs, you feel sick, you get bloated, it's too tight, then you never carry a screwdriver, so you got a 5-cent coin, and it's actually a Phillips head screwdriver.
Oh, right, yeah, I'm with you.
A Phillips head with a 5-cent coin, and it's just a shit fight.
Yeah, I mean, most people aren't changing that big session to session. Like, obviously you're in a gaining phase, maybe once a month you have to move it up, or hopefully a little bit less often, really. And same the other way.
Train.
Yeah, if you're cutting maybe a little bit quicker, things change quicker. But with mine, I just use the 2 prongs, and then I'll put them through, so I can kind of adjust it like one hole. So I like it tighter for squatting. Like I like a tighter belt, just helps give me more feedback during squats. Whereas in a deadlift, I actually go back one notch. So that would annoy the crap out of me if I had to change that every week. But the way mine's set up, I can move it one hole kind of, so it works perfectly. And if I have had a fat day or whatever, and I'm a little bit bloated, then for squats I have that room to move. There is beltless training. Like, people put a big thing on beltless training. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it just makes you look way cooler.
Way cooler.
You just look, because here's the theory behind it. Yeah, if someone deadlifts 300 with a belt on, everyone's like, it's like 12.
Nobody's out there just going like, oh, fuck this guy wearing a belt. Everybody listening to this right now is like, oh.
You pull 220 beltless, you got kids in the gym like, oh man, you're so strong. No,
they're not. No, they're not. I'll be way more impressive with a fucking 300 kilo belted deadlift than a 220 beltless. Maybe this is just a personal insecurity that we should explore with for you. That just makes you feel like a bigger man. Because I don't feel anybody. Nobody out there is saying that. So, I mean, write in. People message us and tell us if this is the case or not. Because if it is, maybe I'm fully mistaken here, and people do think belts are a sign of weakness. But in my mind, they're not.
400 will. Not everyone can deadlift 400. Some of us have to find other ways to be relevant.
Other excuses. Yep.
Exactly. Handicap yourself. It's just like making up your pre-meet excuses. It's like, got this PR today, wore one shoe, no belt, only had one side of my nostril tape on. This is a big PR.
Yeah. Terrible scenario for everyone. But I think to give some to really give my thoughts on this, just very briefly, because we actually do have a YouTube video on beltless training if you want to go watch that as well. For a little bit further, but most of the time I don't see the point. It's like if you're never going to rock up to a comp, and then the judge for the day is just like, well, sneaky one for today, no belts. And then, like, that's just throwing that rule in there. It's not strongman. They can't just change shit on the day. So that's like, you're always going to be able to use a belt in competition. So, like, I've used the analogy before of, like, you don't see, like, footy players. They might change the surface that they're running on or something, but you don't see them rocking up to training with, like, no boots on and then, like, using that as a training tool. Like, it's like you play games in boots. There's never going to be a situation where you're not going to be wearing boots. So probably just do the thing in boots. Just train in boots. Get good at using them. So I would say most of the time you should be doing all your training in belts and getting good at using a belt and getting, just used to it as good as you can with it. And the only time I would ever really recommend beltless training is to put a constraint on the load that's being used. So if I was trying to make
that embracing as well, is you can still learn to brace very effectively with a belt. A lot of people will say, "Oh, got to use beltless training to learn how to brace." It's like you brace exactly the same with or without it. If you can brace without a belt, you can brace with a belt, and if you're bracing shit with a belt, it's just probably too heavy.
Yeah, there's more to getting a good brace than just chucking a belt on and hoping that helps, for sure. I find I definitely can brace better with a belt, like it's just a bit of feedback. But that's what I mean. Like, why would I take that away from me most of the time in training? Like I said, the only time I can see it kind of is
internet clout.
if you
That's
if
it.
to look good get Zach. If you want Zach's nod of approval, and that is something that really matters to you, maybe don't wear a belt in your training. Post up your video, tag Zach in it, and then he can come onto onto your Instagram and go like, I appreciate this.
I'll put this out there. Every single person who tags me in a beltless deadlift video, I will personally have like 2,000 followers. I will comment on it and say, "Good job." That's a guarantee. You have to tag me though. You have to tag me in business days because
you're not out there looking for hashtag beltless and just commenting on every beltless. They
I should
have
do
to
that.
go.
That should be my new thing.
Nah, that's too much effort. Get people to tag you. I like it.
There is some weird shit in hashtag beltless. Definitely not all powerlifting.
I don't know where your mind's going. Let's leave that alone and let's get to wrist wraps. Yeah, okay. Yeah, wrist wraps.
I mean, the only thing is you got the people with like the 79-inch wrist wraps just sitting there rolling it around. Like, there's a certain point where there's too much wrist wrap.
Yeah, they usually come in 30, 60, 90 centimeters, I think.
Damn, you never numbers. Fuck, you're onto it.
And well, there's 3. And 30 is usually far too short. You get like a couple of wraps around and, I don't know, doesn't offer that much support in my opinion unless you have tiny hands, tiny wrists. Maybe that one. 90 is what you're talking about, I feel like, and it's just like, just
a bit too much.
By the time you get to the last 2-3 revolutions around your wrist, it just you feel like you're just not really. They're not needed by that point. I feel like most people, like like there's enough stiffness. If you wrap a 60 centimeter wrap tight enough, your wrist is not moving. If it's a good wrist wrap and it's not the Sting one or whatever the crap you mentioned before.
You're really hating on Sting. I'm gonna send you a Sting package. I'm gonna message Sting on your behalf, like, hey, this,
you're the one that brought it up. Any brand that's in that fucking, Rebel Sport counter thing, I'm not for them. But yeah, the 91s are a bit too much. I don't feel most people need it. Most people would do well with the 60 centimeter ones. Again, like knee wraps, they come in different stiffness. They come in different slightly different materials. Completely personal preference. Get the one that works for you. Get the one that you prefer.
From flaccid to stiff.
And I just keep moving on. I'm just like, I'll just ignore that, keep going. Yeah, choose the one that goes for you. I don't think it matters near as much as knee wraps. Like knee wraps, will impact you if you get the wrong ones. They will kind of mess with you a little bit. Whereas like wrist wraps, like I've used really stretchy ones, really stiff ones. That doesn't matter. If I can put them on tight, they'll do the job. Which is
the only thing is with the really stiff ones. I don't know if this is just me, but if it's really cold, like hurts the veins on the back of your hand. Is that just me? You ever had like you put wrist wraps on a cold morning and it just fucking hurts?
I can't say I have, only because. Yeah, okay, but that's because I don't live in Melbourne where it's cold, and I don't train in the morning, so. Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair. The 2 instances where that's relevant, you're like, nah.
Yeah. It's not that it doesn't happen. I'm not disagreeing. I don't fall in that scenario. But yeah, it could be a problem there if that's you. I don't think any more wrist wrap beyond that is going to help. I don't feel like getting the stiffest wrist wrap on earth is going to help. Usually, you want a bit of you don't want to be perfectly vertical in a bench press anyway. There's going to be a bit of flexion, so it's just a bit of support. In a squat, you'll see people wear it. Again, just a little bit of support takes a joint out of the equation. You don't have to think about it. Just I wear them in it because I literally just kind of like lock in and hold the bar, and it's my wrist isn't going to be moving around. I'm more focused on my elbows, and my upper back tightness, and my brace, and my kind of center of mass on my feet, and where I am in my balance point. So it just kind of takes away a little bit of thought for me that I can put into more relevant areas. Do you wear wrist wraps? Or you're full raw, fucking everything,
full raw dog.
naked?
And the only reason for that is because I find it funny.
Why is it funny?
I don't know. It's just challenging and funny. I enjoy novelty. I'm a very simple person who enjoys novelty. I also went through a period where I only bottomed out my squats. This was during COVID, where I was just real bored. So I did every squat to like maximum depth. It's real difficult. It's real difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's like
I do some strange shit.
We have done some, where we've talked about exercise selection a little bit in this podcast, even though we haven't done a full episode on it, I think, but that usually doesn't fit the criteria for like choosing an exercise. Is this fun? Is this funny? Will people find this hilarious? Is usually not the way I think I go about choosing in my exercise selection. Footwear choices, fashion parade people.
Hashtag Vivo gang.
Oh yeah,
Hashtag Vivos.
I've always been a barefoot guy, so it's not really.
Yeah, but you can't rub your toes on every piece of equipment in normal gyms.
Yeah, that's true.
Like if I could be barefoot, I would, but Emad gets real mad when people rub their toes on stuff.
Nah, I'm all about the toes in this gym. If you want to free the toes, hashtag free the toes.
For people
Nexus.
who haven't had a chance to look at Will's feet, Will has a fucking huge big toe.
What?
Like it's massive.
Okay. I didn't realize this.
It's big. It's a big
unmute
toe.
Mickey. What do you?
Will actually did have a foot fan at one point.
I think
asking.
Everybody's had a foot fan. Everybody's had an Instagram.
No, they haven't.
Haven't they? Yeah, if anybody has a foot thing, like hit Zach up because he's fresh.
You did have a guy that was anything when you trained barefoot.
Which was
and
every
stories
session.
and all your Instagram stories. He reacted to every single barefoot Instagram story, and then obviously asked to pay you money for the videos that you upload on Instagram. And your argument
Could we
was
get
like,
him on the podcast?
I don't know if he's still. I don't know, but like my thought was he's already. These videos are already on your Instagram in the public. Like
he's getting it for free. No,
yeah,
I think he wanted to support. Just like donating to the animal welfare. He was just trying to donate to me for doing a good job.
He's like, don't you want my money? Like, yeah, anyways.
Still living off that money, though. It's good.
Them toe dollars.
Not the foot money.
Yeah, off the foot money.
Toe bucks.
Love it. Yeah, no, but I don't think so. I have fairly large feet in general. Mickey's always referring to my hobbit feet, but
I call him
the big toe in particular.
Feet. I call him Wilbo Baggins. Wilbo Baggins.
Yeah, the big feet in general I can agree with. The big toe, I have never heard that. Again, another Zach thing that that's unique.
These are the things I think.
These are the
about
parts
that
you. This is the things that you pay attention to that not many people do. You know, the thing most people recognize. Other things, Zach's fully zoned in on the details like that. Loves it.
Specifically the feet.
But yeah, in powerlifting,
anyway, footwear.
Really flat, grippy shoes are going to be a friend. Whether that's your good old $10 Chucks, whether that's your fancy Vivo ones or whatever.
Chucks from?
I don't know. Okay, I don't know how much shoes cost.
Volleys.
Yep. Whatever. Kmart rip-off brands, we'll go all for them. Go for it.
There you go. As long as it's flat and it's not a running shoe, you're probably fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then for your heel shoes, if you're a fancy boy and you want to wear heel shoes, squat in heel shoes. Don't do other lifts in heel shoes, please. Then I think about a 10-degree heel is about where you want to lie. I've seen some really high shoes that are maybe built for weightlifting or other sports, and it just gets a little bit ridiculous at some point.
Most of them are too high anyway. Even like a lot of the Nikes, they do it all in inches, and I don't know why.
Yeah,
like a 1 inch to a 0.75 inch is your average inchage.
Yeah.
I tend to use a 0.6 because it feels a little bit better. But yeah, you don't want maximum heel height. It's not the best.
No, it's not. It's not. It's probably not doing the thing that you think it is anyway. We could go into that in a different episode. But not only doing that, it's probably limiting force production in some way if your heels are too high. So, there is a limit to how they're useful within powerlifting, squatting in particular. The only other thing really I have is like soft suits that you're going to wear in a competition. So like they make no difference. There's not really a difference. The material is slightly different between brands. If you're fucking
the material makes a big difference. Certain soft suits, it looks like you've smuggled in one small portobello mushroom, and everyone sees your junk. I mean, yeah. I'm not gonna say which brand, but everyone knows the soft suit I'm talking about. Then you have another one that men should just not wear.
Okay.
There's people. I want people to message in and let them ask which soft suits these are, because there's one specific one where very popular with women, then one dude will wear it, and it's like, homie, please.
I'm all for it.
Out of this world.
Go for it.
Will's hashtag Team Moose Knuckle.
Just wear whatever you want. Wear whatever you want. The thing is, nobody
no one looks good in a soft suit.
No one looks good in it. No matter which one you choose, you look like a bit of a potato in any of them. So
bag of milk.
Maybe, yeah. So like the choosing a different brand is probably not going to do a whole lot for you. Just pick one. And, when you get there on the day and there's 30, 40, 50, 60 plus other people wearing the same thing, then all those insecurities and understanding that you look like a bit odd in a soft suit go out the window, because everybody does. Nobody looks great in a soft suit. Let's leave that there. If anybody has any other, we only really went hard on sleeves and wraps, and which was the question, obviously. So that's why. But all this other stuff like belts, wrist wraps, all that different stuff. If you have any further questions on that, you want to know how to, any of our other thoughts on how to use them, or which ones to buy, or how to program for them, anything like that, technique with them, happy to help. Again, jump on nexusperformance.com.au, podcast up the top of the screen, and it'll take you to a page where you can drop some feedback, ask some questions, just send a nice message to either of us. Tell us how your day's been, whatever it is.
Beltless deadlift videos. Tag me specifically, and if you do want to see the anti-flaccid shirt in the Nexus Performance store, please hit up Mickey Westcombe and let her know that you want it.
What shirt's this?
No, don't worry, please. We'll end the episode there. Don't do that. We're not getting a shirt. Let's end there. See you guys.
Thank you for listening to Nexus Unloaded. Be sure to jump on our website to find details on everything mentioned on today's podcast, plus information on our coaching, mentoring, and gym services. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at nexusperformance.aus for any updates on what we are currently doing. See you all in the next episode.